Real People, Real Talk, Volume 1, the inaugural sort of event. So I really appreciate you guys online tuning in. I appreciate everybody that's here in person. I appreciate especially my panelists. I've got this mask on because Delta is driving everybody crazy, and it sucks. But we want to be respectful to people in person here and just not cause any sort of controversy. So I'm not making no political statements, not about that. I just want to make sure that people are comfortable and we get through the point of tonight, which is really being able to talk about recovery. I'm Salo Ortiz. If I don't know you, both online and in person, I'm a licensed clinical social worker, a clinician here at Meridian Psychotherapy. And I just wanted to bring together an event that really addressed directly recovery. This kind of was birthed maybe 3 weeks ago, guys. I kind of told you, hey, what if we did this? And I was literally, you must know all the raw details. I was literally in the shower just thinking and said, hey, we need to do this event. So you should be worried about kind of what goes on in this head. And it birthed from there's been a lot of overdoses over COVID. There's been a lot of losses. And we wanted to really highlight. Let me mute this. Yeah, let's mute this. All right. We wanted to really highlight just how do we talk to folks directly about what recovery looks like. And so I asked 3 friends of mine to join me and have a conversation, just a real raw, open and honest conversation. None of these guys are professional speakers. None of these guys, I don't think I've even done this really before, right?
I've done something kind of like this, but it's been years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to really talk about a sensitive subject like this, it's just to speak about it honestly, I can't thank you enough. So we will just really jump into that. We've allotted an hour and a half, but we'll take the time that we need. If we have sooner, that's fine. Couple of things that you need to know, especially if you're newer to recovery circles or like this. When I run groups of mine, I don't have a whole lot of rules. I want this to be real, so speak freely. And that usually is more of a pass for me because I tend to sometimes use words that little kids may not want to learn first. And that's, hey, that word, yeah. Listen, that's a really good word, by the way. But I want these guys to speak freely. I want everybody that's present here to speak freely. I'm limiting the questions online. We're not going to have you interact kind of from a vocal standpoint. If there's something online you want to type in as a question, we're going to try to get to as many as possible. I have somebody that's really monitoring that. And we'll do what we can, but we want to be able to just have a raw, honest conversation. There's not really much more of a script to it. So that's it. I appreciate it. So, friends, let me do this and get out of your way. So here's what I need. Tell them name. I guess since we're supposed to be respectful of females and not ask their age. So everybody's 21. Name, age, how many years in recovery, and why are you here? Like why did you say yes to doing this? So set it off.
So I'm Nolan Schmidt. I'm 29. I've been sober for 1 year and 10 months. I decided to do this to help others and also maybe encourage somebody who's also going through recovery or dealing with something in recovery, and also to challenge myself because it's been a long time since I've done something like this, and I've been vulnerable and open, and hopefully this can help somebody. So.
I'm Catherine. I'm 41 years old. I've been clean from opiates for 11 years and 2 months. And I am doing this to service. It's a part of service and recovery. And like Nolan, just the awareness and the stigma of addiction.
I'm Jacob. I am 27. I've been clean for 3 years. I'm doing this like everybody else to help someone, hopefully. Spread awareness, get the word out. I don't think it's talked about enough by any means. So hopefully this helps.
Yeah. So you're not doing this under duress. Right. You're not doing this for extra credit from a treatment standpoint. You're not getting paid. I gave you a little gift, to be honest, right? Just to say thank you, but you're not getting paid for this. You're not doing this for publicity. You're not doing this.
Right.
this really comes from your heart.
Thanks.
Yeah, and so I think that oftentimes what people think, I know this is part of the script, and I told you it's not really a script. Oftentimes people think that Meridian Psychotherapy, where we are in Virginia Beach, would do something like this for a marketing standpoint, for a marketing ploy. You guys, most people would say, I want more clients out of this.
Right.
You guys know my heart, you've known me for years. What's your take on that? You think this is more of a marketing ploy than it is kind of getting the facts out there?
No, I feel like this is more about kind of what she said with awareness, but you touched on this earlier before we started that there's been a lot of overdoses recently in this area, and I think it's for the families out there, also for the people using. This is just to let people know that there is help and there is hope and there's a way out, and we're trying to really, cut down on those bodies out there.
Yeah. You guys feel the same? Are you okay with it, or you feel like this is still, because there's a lot of mistrust for agencies like mine and out there that are doing this maybe because they think that there's money to be had from this.
No, I think you have a genuine concern for those of us and those people out there struggling, and I think it's good to put a face to addiction. It's not just the person you see on the street corner, underneath the bridge, the homeless person. It's your neighbor, it's your doctor, it's your lawyer, it's your friend, it's your son, your daughter.
So Kat, great segue. What's your guys' story? And so what I've told you guys was just give us a little bit of a backdrop of your recovery story. We talk a lot in our circles about recovery story and what's your recovery timeline and those sort of things. What is your recovery story? What brought you to a point of recognizing you needed help? What did you do to finally start getting help, and why do you keep going? So give me a little bit of your story if you're free. Oh, Kat doesn't want to go first.
I'll go first. Yeah. So, man, I've been using and drinking since I was probably about 11 years old. Like I said, I'm 29 now. My main drug of choice was a mixture of different substances, mainly cocaine, heroin, syrup, which is codeine and promethazine cough syrup, and benzodiazepines. I was doing really well for a time. I was working for a Christian television show, but was struggling with my faith and my sexuality at the time. So I turned to drinking, and I started doing uppers and stuff to get through. I ended up losing my job and having to move home. And I thought I was going to bounce back real fast. That didn't happen. I ended up kind of digging more into my addiction. I couldn't hold down a job. I was stealing, selling drugs, anything just to make sure I had enough to get by. And then eventually I had a couple seizures and I couldn't drive. I had a few overdoses, and I was tired of being sick. I was tired of not having any money at all. And I was tired of, not being able to keep a job. I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and that kind of threw me for a loop, and it made using catastrophic for me. So I just wanted to get my life back together before, it went away. I had a lot of friends pass away from gun violence and from overdosing, and I didn't want to end up like them. And that's why I came to Meridian.
So why keep going now? So that was a few years ago. So
Right.
What kept you going in Meridian?
So basically, that's been a year and 10 months now. I did relapse when I first came in. But I just want to live. I really want to live my life to the fullest. And before I didn't want to live at all. I think that had to do a lot with my loneliness, but also just where I was in life. And I just want to live, man. I want to get the most out of life right now. And I can't do that if I'm using. And I don't want my parents to go through what I put through.
I respect that. I'm gonna hit that later. Thanks, Nolan. And by the way, we will have questions from our live audience here, not necessarily directly from the screens, but if you guys have questions, feel free, jump in there. I do things real casually. So should I take Jacob, or would you like to? All right. Jacob, go ahead. Tell us a little bit about your recovery story.
I can identify a lot with what he said, but I started using drugs freshman year of high school. Started off quite fun, right? I smoked weed on the weekends, and then it progressively turned to every day, and then there were always these lines I wouldn't cross. I want to do this drug, I want to do that drug, and the lines became so blurred that I didn't have a line I wouldn't cross. I started working at a bar very young, so I started drinking very young too, and drugs and alcohol went hand in hand for me. I couldn't have one without the other. And I thought I was very good at keeping my addiction a secret, but obviously not so well. But it really got out of hand when I was trying to go to college. I was working a job at the same time and using drugs to stay awake and to do what I had to do to get by in college. Ended up flunking out of college, and that's when I went off the rails. I was super upset about it. I didn't want to tell anybody about it, and I just dove harder into drugs. And that's when the opiates really came out. I got tired of staying awake at night, and the opiates were there for me, and definitely a comfort thing. It made me feel all right in the time of. Once I couldn't find anymore, I was not a nice person. And I wasn't living at home at the time, so I didn't have to speak to my friends, my family. I could just stay by myself. Eventually ran out of money, had to move back with my parents, and lost my job, and turned to heroin for the first time, OD'd the first time I did heroin. And in the hospital, it kind of all came out, obviously.
Sure.
And since then, that was day one of being clean, haven't relapsed since. I came to Meridian maybe 3 weeks after that day. And I think there's a bad stigma about coming, asking for help. Trying to do it cold turkey, I think if there's something there that can help you, why wouldn't you, ask for help? And I was very close to relapsing without coming to Meridian. And coming here really taught me a different way to live.
Thank you. Thank you. Kat, what's your recovery story? What's going through your mind? Are you all right?
Yeah, I was just listening to a story, letting it sink in.
Yeah.
I've been in and out of recovery since I started using, which would be my junior year of high school. And I've been introduced to NA, AA, any kind of rehab you can think of, and including the one rehab that we all try to stay out of is prison. And being in and out, taking pieces here and there of what you learn from rehab. Several relapses, and my age. One day I just walked by the mirror and it caught me. I caught me in the mirror, the real me. That was me. That knew what I was doing to myself, my family. And at this point, I had relapsed probably for the millionth time. And nobody knew at this point because I kind of kept it together and money wasn't an issue at the time. And so I decided that I've heard about Suboxone from other users on the street. And I never wanted to try it because I never wanted to quit, really. I knew there was methadone, but tried a piece of Suboxone and I've never turned back. That was 11 years ago that I did that. So I was getting it illegally. I was going to the same areas that I was purchasing my drugs from to get the drug to help me from using that drug. And eventually that would have turned bad. I'm almost certain the people that go through those neighborhoods and such. But anyway, I found that there was a place that you could actually see a doctor and get prescribed medication. And so I came to Meridian about 5 years ago. I've been here ever since.
All of you guys, obviously you're connected to Meridian. You could have gone anywhere. What made you pick, and this is not a promo sort of thing, right? What made you pick Meridian? What made you stay here? Truth be told, I think, for the record, I think we run one of the toughest programs. Why did you come here and what made you stick around? Yeah.
I chose Meridian because I was familiar. At a point, there was not very many places you could go. And there was a doctor when the place used to be across the street. And I went there briefly just to I needed help with, I was detoxing and I just needed something for that day.
Yeah.
So I went, paid the doctor just to get Suboxone that I never even took. But anyway, I was familiar with Meridian at that point. Came here and met you and my Dr. Van Hopper at the time, she's no longer here. She was very hard on me. Woo, I didn't like her. But it was because she was genuinely trying to help. And I stayed because I like it. I like your group, honestly, that's my favorite part. I have a wonderful doctor, and everybody's just been very accommodating and nice and helpful, so I can't imagine going somewhere else.
By accommodating and nice, you don't mean looking the other way and.
No, not at all. It's not one of those places where if you fall off the wagon, it's, in the beginning, we all have rough times when we're starting to get clean, but you're not shunned or kicked off. I mean, you have a chance to be brutally honest, and honesty is accepted and welcomed here, and appreciated and rewarded. So
Right.
other places, not so much. So that's why I stay here.
How about for you guys? Why here? Why? I mean, you could have gone through the Rolodex. Maybe you got referred from the hospital or from prison or from whatever, but why here? And then why stick around knowing, I'm such a butthead, knowing there's some things that there's other places to go?
Well, I had, when I was probably in one of my roughest spots, I went to CIBH, Chesapeake Behavioral, and I was withdrawing really bad. And then I asked somebody, I don't even remember his name. I wish I did, because he's like the worst one here. He basically paid for me to come here my first few times and gave me like bus passes and everything. And, told me that I had to detox first, which I was like, didn't want to do that. But I did, and I didn't really want to be involved with the group at all when I first came. I didn't want to talk to nobody. I just wanted to get my stuff and go. But eventually, everybody was really real and genuine. And after all my experience with all the other different rehabs I've been going to since I was like 13, 14 years old, it was never really like that. So I decided to stay, and I also I wanted to stay clean, so that's why I stayed.
Yeah.
And you're all right.
You might get extra pay for that one. Everybody knows you're lying now. I mean, Jacob, we didn't know each other initially when you got here, but same sort of idea, and I hear a lot of the similarity, a lot of the trends here, but again, the choices is always there. You always have a choice to not only go back to your old life, but also to try somewhere easier, different, closer to home, whatever, right? People that don't make you sit on a camera and do this. I mean, why did you come here? Why do you stick around in a treatment place like this?
I went to the same place that a guy went to. Actually was going somewhere daily to get my Suboxone. I had to go every morning. I had to pay every single time. It was just absolutely killing me, and I couldn't drive at the time, so I had to get a ride every single morning. And same thing, I talked to somebody at CBH, and they referred this place. I had Dr. Okram at the time. Like she said, very nice, but wouldn't put up with any schemes I tried to pull or anything like that you always end up trying to do in the beginning. And your groups, I mean, they have it's very strict here, right? Like you have to do your meetings, you have to do your groups. And I needed that in the beginning. I couldn't just do my own thing in the beginning. And there's other places where you could sure go and get your subs and not have to do any meetings or anything like that, but it works for me.
So it's not just about the meds.
No.
Yeah. One of the things, I'm gonna get to the other part of my questions in a minute. I'm just, again, just kind of going through things in my head, and if you guys have questions, feel free. You got one?
Yeah, I got one.
Go for it.
Because I've heard people mention AA, NA. So what do the groups here give you that NA and AA don't give you?
Great question.
Oh, man.
They're more personal. We see the same people. It's more like a family situation where you feel more trusting to open up. And we know each other when they say they've been clean for this amount of time. That's fact. We know that. We know when they relapse. when they're doing good, it's I can't think of the word, but I just feel it's more
Close to that.
close
Yeah,
knit,
more close to that, yeah.
It's less of like, I'm not a big fan of NA or AA. It feels culty to me. I don't like how they push the book that much, and it's just not like that here. It doesn't feel like, if you don't do these steps, then you're never gonna be sober kind of a thing. And I really enjoy that, and I enjoy the camaraderie. And like she said, we're certified here, and when someone's BSing or when they're not, or so it's easier to stay on your toes and be real. It's just easier that way.
I would say NA, I mean, I like going to NA meetings, but a lot of those people have a problem with what we do here. And I feel strongly sometimes that I can't be 100% honest at NA, and that's kind of the whole point in going, so you can get everything off your chest. Here, I don't have to hold it.
And so, look, all of you, I know that like me and Nolan always go round and round. Just because you come here doesn't mean you have to drink the Kool-Aid of Meridian and say, so you're allowed to push back, you're allowed to argue and disagree. I mean, how does that go? Because there's times I know from my groups that I really poke at something, you're like, nah, hold on a second.
Right.
How do you handle those things when there's a disagreement?
Well, I mean, I like the fact that there's room to, I love debates. I really
Yeah,
do. So I like that I have the freedom to do that. I probably wouldn't have stayed if I would have caught some flack for that, if I wasn't allowed to ask questions or whatever, I would have been gone and probably dead by now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I like that. I have the freedom there, and we have some deep intellectual conversations that you can't have it in A, because then they only want to talk about, using or what have you, and that just makes me think about using more. So it's a little bit easier to stay on target here.
I've never had anybody known to say that anybody that was talking to me was able to stay on target, because I am all over the place. So.
Right. Well, I got ADD, so I'm able to keep.
Yeah, you're on target with the floating together.
Yeah.
So when we disagree, guys, how do you push through that?
Well, I like that we can bring our problems to the table, even problems we have with our doctor, with the practice as a whole and it's genuinely listened to, and if there is some merit behind that complaint or argument or whatever, it's taken care of. It's genuinely looked at.
You feel heard.
Right, absolutely heard.
Which is hard, because in recovery, right, you go from addiction, you say, okay, now, like, for real, I'm serious this time, and you guys have talked about relapsing, nobody wants to hear you. For once you finally start feeling heard and feeling noticed and recognized.
Believe.
Right.
Believe.
Yes.
For sure. Believe in for sure.
That's huge,
Yes.
yeah. I don't know, well, me and Jacob butt heads all the time too, because I like to joke and poke at him. How do you put up with, like, different, like, for me and him, it's differences in personality and stuff, but how do you put up with the conflict, or you don't feel like you have to go along with the crowd, or like, how does that go for you?
I think disagreement's a good thing,
Yeah.
right? Like in NA, it's very straightforward, like what they say is what it is, right? Like here you almost push for people to disagree, because then it just creates more conversation about that.
Yeah.
If you didn't push things a certain way on me, I would not be able to probably be up here right now, right? Like,
No doubt.
so I think disagreement's definitely
Yeah.
positive.
Thank you. Yeah. Any other questions? Jacob, let me ask you this. So this is one specific topic I gave each one of you guys a specific sort of area to recognize. And a lot of people in recovery, a lot of people in general, wrestle with being an introvert. I'm one of them. I can't talk to people. I don't like being on camera. So it's being an introvert, being kind of somebody that likes to naturally keep to themselves anyway. It gets in the way of many things, but also possibly even asking for help. So how does this work? How does recovery work for you? How do you stay in recovery seeking assistance when you don't naturally want to reach out to people? Like, tell me that part of your recovery story, even from, if you want to go back, you can go back, but even current, so like then and now sort of thing.
So before, it was like I used drugs to not be an introvert. I would use drugs in order to communicate with people. When I was working at a bar, I'd be able to serve drinks better. So that's how I got over being an introvert while I was using. After, I think it has a lot to do with my family. a lot to do with you. I have people holding me accountable, not letting me just sit alone for hours on end. Because that's never good. You sit by yourself, you start thinking, thoughts become actions. But I have people pushing me to get out of this shell.
And sometimes for those of us who are extroverts and just get annoying with talking to an introvert, you're like, really, dude? Like, stop. Because the expectation sometimes is thinking that you want me to be you, right? Like, I want you to be as extroverted and outspoken and loud as me, which is not necessarily true, but we know that there's a balance of needing to reach out.
Yeah.
Right?
I love hearing an introvert talk because they have so much, they're so interesting because they don't ever talk or share.
It's true. It's very true.
They're the most interesting people.
How do you, so is this a daily, from an introvert sort of standpoint in seeking and work and recovery, is it a daily reminder for you, Jacob, to have to reach out? Like, is it intentional? Does it come more naturally now? I mean, you're still an introvert, but like, how does that look now?
Yeah, I think before I had to make a point to not stay by myself. I had to make a point when I went to meetings to, as hard as it was to go up and talk to random people, even though I really didn't want to, but I knew I had to. And like I said, my parents were there to, like, even if I was alone by myself for 15 minutes, they're like, "Are you okay? Are you good? What's going on?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, but it pushed me to be able to then talk about when I wasn't doing good instead of holding it in and God knows what, right?
Yeah.
But definitely different in the beginning than I am now.
Yeah. Do you see it still growing? So, you know, and I want to assume, rightfully so, that this recovery part of your story is going to keep growing. Do you see it kind of continuing to grow and becoming more and more kind of outspoken, or like what is that? How does that look like moving forward?
I mean, I think for myself, obviously, like every introvert, well, okay, I don't know about every, but me myself as an introvert, I would ultimately like to get to a point where I wasn't an introvert, right? Where I was able to go to a random group of people and
That,
I mean, he's doing
I'm
amazing.
like, wow.
right, and be able to talk to anybody I wanted to talk to.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a definite work in progress,
Yeah.
right? But I mean, I'm not nearly as introverted as I was. I don't think.
Yeah. Which speaks to part of what I think, you know, as a treatment provider, is it speaks to your confidence in the route that you're on, the path that you're on. Sometimes we hold back and we sit back because we know we're not up to any good. And sometimes we hold back because we don't think we have anything to add. As you work this recovery and as you continue to grow and let your light shine, let your skills shine, let these sort of things, you're confident in what you're doing. And so you become a little bit more outspoken because you're confident in your shit. I mean, is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, yeah, once I had a couple years experience and I've been there in the recovery aspect, like going through hard times, whatever it may be, I felt more comfortable talking about it. And when you actually help someone out in that aspect, it only lights the fire even more.
Yeah, being able to see the impact, the results, and say, wow, I can keep doing that. Yeah, and then continue to get the encouragement. That's huge. You mentioned parents. I'm going to shift over to Nolan because I asked Nolan to speak on one particular aspect that, you know, what we did was we tried to take a particular area of recovery that a lot of people wrestle with when trying to get clean and stay clean. He and Jacob talked about his parents, and you mentioned your parents a little while ago telling your story, and especially the difference you have, not just from a faith standpoint, but the fact that they're old, you're young, their perspective and not. And you guys went through a really hard time. So looking at what addiction kind of walked through that with your parents, that moment of being able to start seeking recovery and what that relationship with your parents looks like now. That's so interesting on that.
So yeah, for a very long time, like when I was about 16 or 17, I got sent to a military school for troubled youth because I got in trouble with the law and stuff like that. I mean, I got a felony when I was like 14. My relationship was very abusive towards men, verbally, sometimes physically. With my dad, me and him would get into fights a lot, especially while I was, keyed up or whatever. So when I moved back home when I was about 23, I think, it wasn't that bad, but it was still strained for me using. They didn't want me drinking while I was at the house. They didn't want me doing all the drugs I was doing in the house, and I still wanted to do them, kind of a thing. So, and after being diagnosed, it was even harder for me to reach out with them because I'm naturally an introvert. I don't like people that much, so I tend to stick to myself. I would never get out of my room. I'd stay in my room for days and not go get food until they go to bed, kind of a thing, because I didn't want to be around them. And it was just hard for me to even connect with them anymore and to be myself because they're really bona fide Jesus lovers, and I'm a bisexual and agnostic. Like I have nothing in common with them. It's really hard sometimes. But after I started getting clean, I realized that this was my shot to get things right with them. Before I lost them, they have health problems and stuff like that, and I wanted to get a real relationship with them, and it started to become easier after I stopped using and going to therapy and realizing that I can still be different and still be their son.
Yeah.
And so it's been great. It's been really therapeutic. I feel like this time, at first, I was really upset about having to move home, and I was upset about turning 30 and still living at home, but this has been a gift to get my teens back. The time I didn't have with them from me being incarcerated and being in a 15-month program and, being out in the streets. So this has been a gift.
Was it the switch of just you having to turn, like everybody thinks you as the addict, you as the client, the target, you gotta get your shit together, it's your fault. Was it you just having to make changes, or did you see that they had to kind of make some changes as well?
Oh, definitely. I had to regain some trust, but they had to regain some trust with me with some things. They failed in some areas that made me resent them for a long time. Like I was mad at my dad for being gone all the time, my mom working all the time. Like, I was mad about being a latchkey. I've been molested. I blamed that on them. I actively told them that. So we had to work through that, and then apologizing for things, and me apologizing for things, and it's been us meeting in the middle more than anything.
Yeah. So we're not painting this kumbaya picture now.
Right.
What does that look like in the day-to-day world of recovery for Nolan in his relationship with his parents now? Because it's not literally sit around the table and like,
No. Most of the time, like I have to, be the initiator, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's just as simple as me watching some of their stupid TV shows together that they love and that I hate, but I'll sit there and watch it with them.
Right.
I still go to church with them, even though I don't believe.
Mm-hmm.
I know that brings them pleasure and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just the little stuff.
Yeah.
Just with reading books that my mom's reading, even though they're not the books that I would read. Little stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think? What do you say? Because they don't get to speak on it here now. But what do you see that they're able to kind of do day to day with you? Like they've been able to kind of ease up on or adjust or
I've
accommodate.
noticed that has helped them at first, and I noticed it was hard for them. They didn't know how to react with me after getting my diagnosis of being bipolar.
Mm-hmm.
My uncle's schizophrenic and very aggressive, and I think they were afraid that I would be like worse than what I was as a teenager, like a monster. So I think I watched the stigma kind of go away.
Yeah. I
watched them trust me with money,
Mm-hmm.
trust me with their belongings. My dad used to have to lock his office, now he doesn't lock that anymore. Something as simple as them having freedom to go on vacations and not have to worry about me being dead when they got home or me being arrested or what have you. Just little stuff like that, and the conversations we have are different. So
How do they take when I asked you to do this and you talked to them about this, and especially what you were going to talk about? How did they take that?
I've done so many things like this before. Like they weren't like, "Oh yay," kind of thing, because they're like, you did that before and still went out and used. But I think they're just accustomed to not being too excited with me. But they were happy.
They're still cautious.
Oh yeah, and they're proud or whatever. And they gave me a ride. They gave me my space as well.
So when new folks come to my groups, you guys have heard this before. I'll ask them what's going to make this time work. So you hit on something now, and again, not scripted, but just thought. You've done talks like this before. You've told your story. What makes this one different? Like, because now you're on the spot. Now you're talking to people. I'm gonna hold you accountable.
I think what's different now is the fact that I've been sober so long. Before, this is the longest I've ever been sober, I think, in my whole life.
Yeah.
So I've been using for like 14 years.
Yeah.
So I think that is a testament, and also I'm not stealing right now, I'm not slinging anything, so.
So you were still doing dirt. Well, those times that you were clean, it wasn't like fully clean from a lifestyle recovery standpoint. It
Yeah,
was
I mean,
just
I
not
was, even when I was on Christian television, I was doing grimy things,
Yeah.
but I didn't know, I was just that's all I knew
Right.
to survive.
So the change wasn't just not using, the change has been lifestyle learning
Right,
overall.
and just my personality, you
Yeah.
know, just, I think they can see that I'm a different person.
What would you this is your public service announcement for folks that wrestle with their parents, wrestle with family members, whatever. What do you tell them? What do you tell somebody who's actively using? What do you tell somebody who wants to get clean, but has said they were going to 38 million times before? Like, how do you do
You gotta
that?
want it, man, I can't give them anything other than the fact that you're not gonna have your parents forever. And despite what they've done or haven't done for you, they're still your parents. And I know I would regret it if I didn't fix these things, so.
Yeah.
I can't speak for everybody, but you just gotta wanna get clean and you gotta really get sacrifice people, places and things.
Yeah.
And it's possible.
And hearing you say it's possible, like literally gives me chills because you were literally that guy that was like, man, F that, like that ain't possible, that ain't gonna be me, I'm gonna do what I want.
I was never gonna speak like this again because I was used in the past, people used me and used my story and they who bucks off me and not give me a dime, so
Yeah,
I was not gonna do anything and I didn't wanna open up and let people into my life. I still really enjoyed my privacy and I really enjoyed not having people around, it's just bliss for me. I'm one of those introverts that enjoys being one.
he's a weirdo,
I really like my peace and quiet. But so yeah, but this is good.
Yeah, there's a level I think that we obviously all have a personal relationship because we got years together, but there's a level of trust that says I won't be taken advantage of, I won't be used, right? One of the things we were joking about was, if we go viral with this and we make a lot of money, I mean that's a joke, but then it's kind of like, yo, hold on a second, what if we do? And I didn't know that. I didn't know.
I mean, you still broke us off with what you gave us, the little bit you gave us when we were here. I didn't even get that.
Yeah.
So
it's a when you know that the other side, from your parents to even us as treatment providers, have an appreciation for you. Sometimes we as service providers think that we know it all and that we have everything, you got nothing to give us. And we don't recognize that. So the fact that we're willing to humble ourselves and say, yo, thank you. Because it's because of you that I get paid, it's because of you that I've got a job, it's because of you that I'm able to keep growing. Sometimes that's sometimes enough, right?
I mean, that's what recovery is about. It's more than just getting sober.
Yeah.
It's about getting your life back and it's about giving other people the chance to get their life back. That's what recovery is.
Well said, well said. Any questions, y'all?
What's the hardest change that you've had to make in your daily lives to get recovery to work for you?
Dropping certain shows that I can't watch anymore because it's got drug use in it. Not listening to certain music anymore, regardless of how good it makes me feel or how you got me out of a spot because it has memories attached to it. And forgiving myself probably.
Yeah.
Really forgiving myself.
Yeah.
Because it's easy I think what other people have in the programs, they have their higher power that forgives them. I don't have that. So it was really a huge step for me to forgive myself, and that really changed a lot.
What about for you guys? What's been the hardest thing to kind of walk away from or do different?
People, certain people.
Relationships.
Yes.
Yeah. So when we pick, sometimes again, those of us in this side of it kind of talk about changing people, places, and things, and we make it sound so freaking easy.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And you guys are laughing because you're like, yeah, right. Yeah, because we're talking family to close friends that you've worked with, right? To even in your years of using and watching somebody, I mean, I've had people say, like, me and him watched somebody die together. Like, we've been through life and death together, and you're telling me to walk away from them, knowing that they're toxic. How did you do that, Kat?
Oh, well, I have an example, right there.
Yeah.
He, Ashby and I, we've been on and off together for over 20 years and, we got in trouble together. And there was a point in which it was in the probation office, the city of Virginia Beach would not allow A and B. Couldn't live together, couldn't be together, couldn't do this, that, and, you know.
Yep.
But, so yeah, and there was a while where we were, you know, we had to, because we're at different points of recovery in our life, so when one's doing good, you gotta stay away from the other, vice versa. It's, so that was hard.
With some of the losses of relationships, did you find some that you gained that were, I don't wanna say equally as intimate, but equally as important? Or like, was there a replacement for those intimate relationships that you lost?
I don't think, people can be replaced, but I don't think what they mean to you can be replaced. It's just a different, relationship.
Yeah.
You know, once it's gone, it's gone.
No doubt. This is a random question, so bear with me. For those of us who kind of look at whatever your journey was in addiction and some of the, what we would call intimate relationships that you did have, they were genuinely intimate, you know, even running streets together. How can we show more appreciation and compassion for those relationships that you had to let go or that you lost when you walked away from a lifestyle of addiction into recovery? Like, how do we show sensitivity? Sometimes we're not very sensitive. We're like, that dude's a loser, what the hell's wrong with you? And we can really be insensitive.
I think it's real easy, especially for people who do not use,
Yeah.
to say, leave those people alone, they never cared about you, da 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 da, because that's what the textbook says.
Right.
But I mean, you can't tell me that because that person bailed me out, that person, you know, saved my life, that person did X, Y, and Z. So I think it's more important to be to pay attention to what the person, if you're whoever's in recovery, if it's your peer or you're working with someone that you're trying to help get sober, to listen to them and value the relationships that they value. Don't devalue them, but let them know that it's probably best for them and the person that they love to be separate. You know, don't devalue the relationship.
It also depends on what point in your recovery are you too.
Fair,
Right.
In the beginning, that person's everything, and then once you get yourself together,
Yeah.
you realize how toxic they were.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's very true. We sometimes shove it down your throat that you need to walk away from something. You're like, this is all I know.
yes,
And you're almost forcing me, even for an introvert, you're forcing me to be alone, and I don't know about that. Yeah, that's tough. What do you think, Jacob? Like, how do we help to appreciate the relationships that you did have for whatever the value was for those relationships?
I don't know, it's like he said, I mean, unless you've been there and had to get rid of that relationship, it's hard to make somebody understand what somebody means to someone else. Like, I can't tell you how much a certain person means to me, you have to be me.
Right.
But I think to make it easier to let people go is you just need to understand that they're no longer a positive influence on your life. That's what I did.
Right.
I took an inventory of everybody that was in my life, and you either were positive or negative. There was no in between.
Yeah.
And 95% of them were negative.
Yeah.
So, it made it, I don't want to say it was easy, but it was easy to find out who I needed to keep in my life.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. For me, one of the lessons when I try to do those teachable moments is teaching how to say goodbye, how to end relationships appropriately rather than ghost, whatever. Does it help to get through some of those or let go of some of those relationships if we walk you through how to do that? Like, do you know how? Some of us don't know how to break up. Some of us don't know how to say goodbye.
I just coach me.
You just say,
I'm just saying.
Because like for me, especially in the beginning of my recovery, it was too much of a risk for me to even have a conversation with that person because it could lead to me, getting high or doing something I wasn't supposed to be doing. So it was easier to ghost. But I've had people reach out to me and then I'll explain why. But I'm not going to be the issue.
Yeah. So, but you guys wanted to learn how do you do that and not feel like an asshole? How do you do that and not feel like you're broken?
I think it's survival at that point. You have to convince yourself that you have to do this to stay alive.
Yeah, it's either I hold on to this or I die, and I die or I live.
right.
It really gets down to those bare bones. Yeah, self-preservation. That's really accurate, man. I like that. We had a question that came through online, guys. I'm gonna go to. I'll come to you in a second, but a really good question was. I had somebody write in and said, I lost my 30-year-old nephew in May to a heroin overdose, and I'm sorry for that loss. I think anyone who has used would agree they're lucky to be alive. But do you feel like there was a moment when you went from being reckless to investing in yourself? Or do you think that there have been several moments that reinforce that for you? Like, did you go from, you know, we talk a lot in recovery in our circles about self-worth and valuing yourself. But there was a time when you started to really, was there a time that you can point out that you really started noticing that you had some work?
For me, it was probably the end of 2020, the beginning of this year is when I started, investing in. I mean, I bought a camera. I invested in that dream that I have. I've been buying books to help me learn how to become a better writer. So it wasn't until I had some clean time under my belt and had some therapy, because my brain always tells me that I'm not shit. So I have to go and actively work through that. But I've had more than several moments of that, and that have reinforced that. I think those have been in group and meeting with my practitioner and meeting with my psychologist and stuff.
Really good, thank you, yeah.
Hey, Silo, can I jump
Yeah,
in?
you're not supposed to be talking, what's up, man?
I'm not, well, I don't know, my microphone was thing. I was just, y'all haven't been talking about the therapy part of it that, that really shows, especially in Nolan's thing. I'll shut up now, but I've been trying to talk with little thing on my.
I love you, brother. I love you to death. I love you. Don't worry. You never gotta shut up for me. Yeah, we will talk the therapy part. I wanted to be able to kind of show progression of where we go to, like what it looks like now moving forward. So I will promise, Ken, we will do that. Thank you for holding me accountable. For you guys, was there a moment of reinvesting in yourself, investing in yourself? That switch of not seeing worth to seeing worth.
Not to sound narcissistic in any way, shape, or form, but I knew I had worth before I even started recovery. I've had a great family that's made me know it. I've had great people around me, but it isn't until, like Nolan said, when you start seeing the rewards of the recovery,
Yeah.
that worth just gets better and better, and then you just won't tolerate shit at that point.
Right.
You're not going to talk to me that way.
No, that's true.
Because we put up with a lot of disrespect.
Oh yeah, I mean, Kat, it's so interesting. You never lost full, the assumption is that we don't think we're anything, right? When we hit rock bottom or when we look for a change, you had to have been in a place that you didn't feel like you were worth anything. You knew you had some value, and maybe that's some of it. I saw that there was value, and I had to improve on that value already. Rather than I didn't have any value and I had to learn how to, I always had it. I just know that I never took care of it, maybe, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah, that's really good. Good. What about you, Jake?
I think for me it was damn near dying. Like when I woke up in the hospital, and I always thought when I was using that no one was gonna care. Like I thought they've written me off as, the kid that uses drugs, and if he dies, whatever. But when I woke up and I had my whole family there and I had my sister calling me 24/7, I was like, wow, okay, if they care that much about me, I need to start caring about myself, literally doing the right thing.
Yeah, wow. I want to get to the therapy part, but I want to jump on something with Kat first, and then we'll get to kind of that side of things in terms of where things now in therapy, because I think that is really valid. Staying involved and looking at the parts that work and don't work, and being able to give honest feedback about, what to look for in therapy and all that. So I want to get to that, but Kat, I gave you a specific task of looking at, when this opioid epidemic really started a few years back, right, five or so years ago, a lot of people of color were mad because they're like, look, now everybody's paying attention to this shit because it's affecting white America. And you look like the model, literally the model, you're beautiful, the model look of what people look like, and they don't expect you to be an addict in recovery. And we have to break these stigmas. We have to break this image that people are expecting everybody under the bridge, like you said, on the corner, and not looking normal. Like you guys, all three of you looking normal, right? What role did that play in terms of looking normal, breaking the stigma, right? You didn't look like the type, and from using to even now. How do you speak on that?
I can tell you, I was able to go into a store, grab whatever I wanted, do my dirt, because no one would ever suspect that she was doing what she was doing.
Yep.
And I've done some really heinous things. Also, when I acknowledged to my parents that I did have a problem, my dad refused to believe it. Like I had to roll up my sleeves and show him in his face, this is what's going on. And then my parents argued about treatment. Even when I went to treatment, it was the Open Door Chapel. It was off Virginia Beach Boulevard. It was like a detox, and they had portables set up. And I went there, and you know, she doesn't look like she needs to be here. And then my dad would come to their groups where your family could come, and he's like, "You're not one of these people." So I mean, I've heard these things, but going through it, I knew I was those people. I'm doing exactly what they're doing. I mean, it's so that.
So how do you own, so there's a sense of ownership, right? And we talk about this in diversity, immigration, so those people, us people, right? And there's this sort of discrepancy.
Right.
You are those people.
Yes.
Is there a guilt of having to own that identity? Or is there like, how do you own that I'm those people? You know, how do you carry that every day? How do you say, I'm okay to be those people? Like,
I mean, at the time or whatever, you know, when you're told you're not those people don't understand because they can't picture you in the light of of what those people do. But I was young, and you know, I just fell into it, and I was those people. Those were the people that I could connect with. Those were the people that got me, not whoever they thought I was. So those people were special people to me at the time. They still are. Those are my people. They still are my people.
Yeah, and you've told me stories in the past, right, of people talking shit about those people.
Yeah.
What does that look like now? So now being in recovery, now being clean this long, now having continued to work programs, and you hear people constantly talking about those people. And I mean, I tell you, it pisses me off. How do you manage those conversations when you're out in public? And you know, it goes from the stigma that Jacob was talking about of being on Suboxone, which we'll talk about, to even like those people and look, I can't believe, right? Because there's a lot of people that are embarrassed by this. They're embarrassed that their kids are going through this. They're embarrassed that they have to acknowledge this, and that's why we did this. What do you do when you hear those conversations?
Well, it depends on who's having the conversation. If I was out in public, I'm not going to start a fight or a disagreement. They can think what they want, but if you're somebody that, you know, obviously, if we're intimate and we know each other, then you're going to know this part of me. I'm an open book. But there have been times where people that I don't know so well have those people mention that, and I get very defensive. And then I, boom, shoot with all these things about myself. They're the worst 10 things off the top of my head.
Right.
Would you believe that about me?
Right.
No way to, well, I'm those people. You know, think about what you're saying before you say it. You don't
And is
know
there
who you're
pride
talking
when you own that?
to.
When you own it?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I've been through the trenches,
No doubt.
you know?
And live to tell about it.
Sure, I'm very blessed. I'm a very grateful person,
No doubt.
so.
What about for you, Jacob? And Nolan, like when you hear people talking about those people and whatever, because again, I mean, everybody looks normal to me, but then I ain't saying much, right? But yeah, and you're stuck, and you hear people talking all the time. It's what keeps people from reaching and getting help. How dare I walk through Meridian's doors and ask for help? Because we don't look like the type that would walk through that door. What do you do with that?
I think for myself, I work with a lot of people that have that stigma attached to it still, where they're junkies, right? Like they don't need help, or they don't want help, they don't need it, whatever. And it took me a long time to be able to have a conversation about it and to kind of explain where I'm at. And like she said, like, I don't think I look like a stereotypical junkie, right? But I got help, so why can't those people get help?
Yeah.
I think it definitely needs to be brought more into the light that, I mean, this shit can literally happen to anybody.
Anybody, right?
There's a meme on Facebook, or just in general, there's this saying like, if a junkie can get Narcan for free, why can't a cancer patient get, or, and it's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's that one too, that
It's true. There's you know, it's the leverage.
it's not
thing.
viewed as a disease, it's a choice.
And I think what people need to understand is that we chose to get high, not to get addicted. So, and
Yeah.
what people always understand, like they think, well, they chose to live under a bridge, or they chose to be this and that. I mean, I was a product of my environment.
Yeah.
You either sold drugs or did them for most of my life. Everywhere we've moved, I've moved around a lot. It's just what it was every single time. And so, I mean, I'm not gonna just say, you know, put it all in that, but that was a big factor in that. And so I think people need to understand that not everyone, I mean, even as you can see, someone who grows up like middle class can still have that problem, but I mean, like I said, we chose to get high, not to get
I
addicted.
love that line. I think that's huge.
It's really important because everyone thinks that's not gonna happen to them, you
Yep.
know?
Yep.
Everyone thinks that,
Yep.
they're gonna be strong enough.
Mhm.
Everyone thinks that that they can just dip in and get out, and that's just not how it works. It gets you regardless of who you are, regardless of class, race, what have you, you
Yeah.
know?
Absolutely.
My dad was a police officer. I've known since
Wow.
beginning of time drugs were bad,
Yeah,
so.
yeah, no doubt. This will be a transition sort of thought, because it goes to what Ken was asking online and you guys, so some of what we hear in treatment circles and recovery is it takes one to know one, right? And so you guys who've been a part of my story, you know my story, right? They don't take one to know one because I do this and I'm not an addict in recovery. So those people, it takes those people in order to help those people. So yeah, there's some truth in that. When we talk about treatment, when we talk about therapy, when we talk about trust, getting help, right? That's the number one question that we hear as treatment providers is, well, are you in recovery? Like that's always the number one question. How do you trust somebody who isn't one of those people? How do you trust somebody who doesn't look like me, right? Kat, you got beautiful hair and my back hair looks like yours, you know, like I'm bald, I'm black, you know, I'm very dark, like I'm not female, like I don't look like you, and yet you have to engage with somebody who doesn't look like you or isn't one of those people. How does therapy and doing that play a part for you guys?
I think it all depends on who's engaging. Like, if it's someone who just comes at me with just the textbook knowledge, it's gonna be really hard for me to connect with them. With you, I mean, you're a bit unorthodox, but you're real, and I can tell that you care, you know? Everyone else that I've run into, you know, especially those who just stick to, you know, what they read in the DSM-5 or what have you, or the handbook on addiction, they're usually not as compassionate or attentive. They don't really listen. Most of the time, they're just going off what they know, and they just have it chopped up as whatever that book says you are.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's all about intent, and you can sniff it, we can tell when it's real or not.
Real recognize real, and that's really the case here.
So I mean, I think that's the main thing.
That's good. What about for you guys, when you look at somebody who's not those or doesn't look like you?
When they listen and they respond with questions, they dig deeper, they wanna know, they're genuinely interested in what you have to say.
Yeah.
Because not everything is textbook.
Yeah. Good point. Good point. What about you?
I thought I was gonna have a big problem with it, like just exactly what you said, like they have not been there, they haven't done that, how could they possibly understand what I was going through? But like, the way certain therapists, like you said, are just by the book, right? They ask you A, B, and C every single day.
Yep.
They don't really care,
Yeah.
right? I'm not gonna be truthful with them, why would I?
Yeah.
They're gonna ask me the same questions again tomorrow.
Yeah.
When you pick and you poke and you know, you actually find out about somebody like way down to the bones of it, like how do you not open up, right?
Yeah, that's wow.
But a lot of you people that haven't, non-addicts or someone that hasn't tried, you have a lot of the same traits that we do, you just use them in a different negative way, so.
So how do we find a similar place of understanding? That's really it.
Right, so it doesn't necessarily have to come down to the actual drug,
Yep.
there's a behavior,
Yep.
there's a thought pattern
Very
that
true.
we might share.
Very true. Very, very true. And we have to be willing to appreciate that.
Yeah.
What does so with from getting therapy, right? From group that's required for Suboxone to even individual, if you're working on some other things. No, you talk about dual diagnosis of co-occurring, and we talk about what do you look for, like we look at trust, we look at somebody who listens. What do you look for and what do you avoid in somebody who's trying to help you, right? Quote unquote help you? What are the, yes, I need this, or bro, stay away from me.
Red flags for me, like I've gone through a lot of therapists, and if I find that I'm repeating myself every session, I'm not getting the help that I need, I'm still on a medication that I'm asked to be off of, or maybe to explore another option, that's a red flag for me. So I'm quick to leave when I'm not being adhered to, and it's real easy to tell whether or not they care. I mean, I ran through. Probably shouldn't say. I went through a lot of the therapists at CIBH.
Yeah.
And I had to come here for the therapy and stuff,
Yeah.
and it's been a lot better. I knew that I would be listened to here, so.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, what works, what doesn't, what do you look for in therapy, what keeps you engaged, what doesn't, what turns you off? What do you guys?
For myself, I always grew up thinking that therapy, my dad is a very manly man, so to speak, so I always grew up thinking that therapy was weak,
No doubt.
that you just push through it, whatever your problem is, you get through it.
Yeah.
And after going to CIBH, I just realized that like me doing it by myself was not working. I was gonna use drugs.
Yeah.
I needed to have someone help me and
Yeah.
someone that cared.
Yeah.
And I guess I got pretty lucky because
Say that again, you gotta say that loud.
I kind of mumbled it on purpose.
Yeah, no, yeah, come on, but you know, Jake, you spoke on something that I do that I know not a lot of therapists or people in my field agree with is a lot of the self-disclosure. I'm very open to my journey, very open that I'm in therapy, very open that I work on it. Literally what I worked on with my therapist the other day was that same exact thing about this being a feminine thing. When, you know, this is pre like 2021 of like everything equal sort of thing, right? This is like feminine or not. My parents are immigrants from the Dominican Republic. I'm Hispanic, I'm a Hispanic male. I'm very macho, and I do this feminized work, and yet I'm not soft. And how do you perceive yourself as being manly or quote unquote strong when you do this soft stuff?
I think a real man takes evaluation of his mind. I think a real man works on his emotional intelligence. And I think a real man takes the time to work on himself. Otherwise, he's not a man at all. He's a little boy.
Amen. Amen.
So that's just how I see it.
Amen.
There's a lot of little boys.
Ain't that the truth? They're all on your side and on mine, no doubt. Because there's not a lot of them, right? And that come at you as stronger. Because sometimes one thing that I admitted, Noah, was sometimes I'm as much of an asshole because I sometimes find myself needing to flex to prove my manhood, even in this feminized, what I see as feminized sort of thing. A real man does those things and I have to remind myself or be reminded, Noah, because we find ourselves feeling soft in this. It's this sort of cultural stigma, again, just like getting clean, is that this is soft.
So you're actually stronger because you're strengthening and you're gouging out those weaknesses. You're getting that out instead of just holding on and letting it fester. I mean, that's not being hard at all.
Yeah.
That's really being soft.
No doubt.
And a turn off about treatment is being treated a business. We know it's a business,
No doubt.
okay? You guys
No doubt.
need to make money,
No doubt.
but when it's put in your face that it's about money,
How so?
you come second. I'm saying not.
Yeah,
this,
no,
but
but how so? How do they, how have
there's
people?
there's places out here that, you know, if you don't pay, you don't get
Right.
the treatment, and then
There's
that's
balance
it.
too.
Well, there's other places, okay, we understand you can't pay, but here's some resources, here's some
Right,
ways, or here's some other place you may be able to go, that's a better suit for you. I think a lot of people, they don't even realize that Meridian takes Medicaid.
Right.
There's so many people on Medicaid, a lot of addicts, because they don't work, they don't, you know, they're on Medicaid, and they don't consider the fact that they can still get help with
Yeah.
Medicaid.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, being treated like a number, and I'll tell you, that comes up a lot in our
it's not
circles of,
personalized.
yeah, like you're only doing this because you make, you know, $40 a head off of me, right? And
Right.
we joke, and sometimes we joke, but sometimes we're for real. You're like,
Yeah.
you see 10 people sitting in the group room, you're like, bro, you just made $400.
Right.
I'm just a cash cow. And that's a really big barrier. You're right. How do we have to be willing to kind of not just be honest? And I know for our circles, I'm very almost too giving about information in terms from a finance standpoint. We talk about it being a business, but I can't be treated like when I know it's
Right.
yeah, there's got to be the intimacy or the appreciation for it. And I do thank you guys for being here. I thank you guys for being participants and being a part of it. quick question that we got from online. You each have had bad experiences with care providers. Is there something providers could have done a lot better to earn your trust? Maybe in some of the other ones, maybe in me. What could therapy, care providers, what can they do to earn your trust?
It takes time, right?
Time.
And like I said before, like listening, really, really important for me. And also, follow-ups. Like sometimes the follow-ups just feel like routine instead of an actual follow-up.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. When I text you at random, and I'm like, yo, no, what's up?
Or like, or like, you know how like they just forget details, and I'm like, I saw you write this down, how do you forget that shit?
Yeah,
right.
You had a notebook, you know, just little stuff like that.
Gotcha. Yeah, what do you guys, what could they do differently to earn that trust?
Basically, I think what Owen said.
Yeah.
My providers in the past didn't work because I wasn't ready for them to work. So I can't say anything negative about them.
So it's almost like you had to be willing to trust them. It wasn't that they did anything wrong, you just
So
had to.
I had to be at a point in my life where I was ready for anything to work. You know what I mean? I've been sent everywhere, but
Yeah.
nothing's gonna work. Not even the best in the world is gonna work if I'm not ready for it to work.
No doubt. That's true. What do you think, Jake?
I think you can really tell, like I've been, when I was, in my early 20s, I went to places where it's like they just shuffled you in as quick as they could, and they literally ask everybody the same questions.
Yeah.
I would literally wait outside and be like, did they ask you these questions? I mean, it was like literally A, B, and C every time.
Yeah.
And you're there, like we said, like for a paycheck, like you don't care.
Right.
So like, how are we supposed to be open and honest with somebody that just wants my money?
Yeah.
Right?
How important is the care provider's self-disclosure in your ability to trust? How important is that to you?
I don't know, I think it depends for me. I mean, it's important, yeah, but it's also like not like, it doesn't hinge a lot.
It's not a requirement.
Yeah, like I don't need you to bury yourself,
Right.
but I mean, it helps, it definitely.
Humanizes
Yeah.
the person.
There you
Yeah,
go.
that's a good word.
Yeah.
Identify with them.
Yeah.
Like that was a big thing here with my doctor. Like she told me some of her backstory, and I mean, I was much more comfortable than telling her things that maybe I wouldn't have.
And even if with someone like me, even with somebody that tells you I'm not in recovery, like even that still humanizes it. We don't have to have a similar story. You just have to be willing to acknowledge it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's huge. Any questions, guys? You three are here. You mentioned it. I want to get to this part in terms of care quickly. From a Suboxone standpoint, Jacob, you talked about this in 12 steps and whatnot. Suboxone, medication, buprenorphine and naloxone helps you kind of not, it blocks, the receptors and that sort of thing. Some people look at it as cheating, right? This is Jacob's a huge baseball fan. We've talked about it from a steroid standpoint, right? Like, people think you're cheating in recovery. You're not really clean.
I don't think that's true.
But you get that thrown at you. And sometimes you're almost embarrassed to say that you're in treatment
I
like
think
this.
what it is, they're just, a lot of times people think that their journey should be everybody's. Like,
That's
I
exactly
work
what it
super
is.
hard, so everybody
Right.
has to work, or this was my recovery, and I had to sweat and so that should be yours too, just so it seems fair or whatever. But I think this is a resource and that it should be used. And, I think someone once described it before as like a diabetic needing their medicine. It's along the same lines, and it can't be that bad if people have been clean for a number of years using this. And after a while, I mean, it doesn't even really feel like getting high. So I think it's just a misconception on there, and it's not like methadone or what have you, like on this shit. So it's just, I don't know. I think it's just, like I said, they want a form of fairness that does not exist.
Yeah. And a lot of people from parents and family members, they think all or nothing, right? You're either clean or you're not.
Yeah.
So here you are with a crush, here you are with the asterisk. How do you guys handle that?
They can think what they wanna think.
Right.
I walk in these two shoes. I know
No doubt.
what it means to me. I can't worry about what other people think
That's
as
fair.
far in the regards of that.
That's fair. What about you, Jake?
I want to just do whatever I gotta do to not die. Like I want to live. I don't give a shit like what I have to do to live. Like if I have to take Suboxone for the rest of my life, so be it. I like diabetics needing their medicine. That's exactly how I view it. Like I need my medicine to live.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Like I tried it without it. I was very close to relapsing. One time you relapse, you can die. Right? It's that simple.
Especially with the product now. And so we also talk about from a use standpoint, from an addiction standpoint, it's more than just using or not. It's the lifestyle. You guys have alluded to that. The lifestyle that goes along with it, the lying, the cheating, the deception. This is you using medication to stay focused on a path that's taking you better, taking you further. I'm not falling into the other lifestyle patterns. And that's what a lot of people need to recognize. You may not like Suboxone, and that may not be for you, and that's fine, but I'm also not lying and cheating. This is what was different than what I've had before.
Right, yeah, I mean, also, like, it definitely helps with cravings too, so it's, again, it's a resource, so they're out there white knuckling it probably, like, oh, I just gotta get through this day, and, you know, and let me go to all these meetings, and yeah, they're 1 second away, and all I have to do is just put this shit under my tongue and not have to fret all day.
Yeah, literally.
It's so bad.
It gives you a chance, and I mean, it gives you a chance to live.
It's a resource.
Yeah, no doubt.
I mean, I remember before I went on Suboxone for like those couple weeks, I was still doing all the things except using drugs. Like my behavior did not change at all.
Right.
I was still trying to find cash lying around the house. For what? I wasn't even gonna buy drugs, but I was just stealing to steal.
Yep.
And like as soon as I started coming here, doing all the things I was supposed to be doing, all this behaviors went away.
Yeah. Addiction is about more than just clean or not. Right. And that's a big takeaway, right? When we're looking at families who may be tuned in, people that are tuned in that are considering it, but even family members that are trying to find people help, it's not just using or not. That's a big part of it, but it's more than that. Right? It's the ability to change a lifestyle, change the way that I approach it. I look like you said it in your story, Nolan, of I want to live now. Like you don't understand. It's more than just I'm just not using, I'm living.
Yeah. It's there was a movie that came out in the 90s called Trainspotting. It was about a heroin addict. At the end it said choose life. And I think that's what it is. We're choosing life right now.
Yeah, no doubt. We had a question that came in and or a good point to make, and I want to point this out. You know, since resources not being that easy to find might have people in active addiction to give up trying to find recovery while one step in, right? So how do you encourage somebody to keep looking? How do you encourage somebody to, like, where do you go for help? Where do you go?
The internet is an amazing big place.
Yeah.
You can find almost anything. I found CIBH by the internet, by
Yeah.
Googling resources and then asking them for resources. I mean, I got hooked up with the DARS rehabilitation program, helped me get a job through CIBH. So I think a lot of people who say that they don't know where to look. I mean, I didn't even know something like CIBH exists in almost every city.
Yeah.
So I think it's I think my mom kind of helped me out with that, but and also looking online, but the internet is huge. Google has a lot of answers.
You can literally say, I need to stop using heroin or opiates, and boom, like
There's
you said,
helplines, everything.
NAAs, Monday, 7 days a week.
So even if you don't agree with a 12-step program, even if you don't like this, and I know I can go there and connect with somebody to get help.
And they got pamphlet after pamphlet of things that can help, you know what I'm saying? So
No doubt.
there's reasons.
Yeah. One thing that Jacob said earlier was the ability to challenge myself to say, if I need help that bad, I need to open my damn mouth. I have to be willing to step out and ask and talk. So telling people about programs like this, talking to people about, where did you go, or do you know a place? If you want it that bad, you've got to be willing to put yourself out there.
Yeah, because if you're running around in the streets doing drugs, there 9 times out of 10, one of your people that you're running with has been through it. They can guide you.
Well, and let's be real on the other side of that, right? If you know that somebody on the street got a good product, you won't ask them, where'd you get that?
Right.
You will do the same thing on the other side.
Right.
You're gonna bust your ass to do whatever, and we stole, come on.
Yeah.
We had the balls to do all that stuff.
But I get it, because back when I got myself together, there weren't places you could go to get Suboxone, or there wasn't. I didn't even know what it was.
Yeah.
Wow.
So just kind of, we got like the last 15 minutes or so. I thought we were gonna go early, but you guys love to talk so much. Jacob can't shut up. That's really what it is. So what now? when you look at recovery, you look at sitting here, you look at kind of what your future looks like. A lot of us on this side of the treatment side kind of challenge you to goal setting, challenge you. Why keep going? I asked you at the beginning, I know. What do you need? Like, where do you see this? Like, where's the hope? What are you striving for, right? Nolan said, I want to live. Why? The hell does that mean? Live for what?
Live for me. I want to live for me, and I want to get the most out of my life. I mean, I got it tatted on my arm, die empty. Like, I don't want to go to the grave with nothing that I haven't done, like no dream chase. I don't want to die with this book half written in my head, pictures I haven't taken. You know what I mean? I don't want to just live life and just work and go home. So, I mean, I can't do that if I'm not using it.
And yeah, you can't have both.
Right. I mean, and that's why right now I'm trying to finish getting my GD, getting my license, now that I'm able to, and hopefully get a job where I can help people.
And so, like, for that moment for you, when you started getting clean and even in this journey of being able to die and live out sort of things, you want to help people with this.
Yeah.
Was that always there, or did that develop as a result of it?
I've always, I mean, when I was on Christian television, I thought I was helping people. And it's funny now, like looking back, I wasn't doing shit. But I thought I was, my heart was in the right place.
Right.
You know, so I've always kind of wanted to help people.
Yeah, that's always been in there. So it's almost allowing yourself to let that blossom.
And returning to dreams that I kind of threw away. Like
No
I wasn't
doubt.
writing, I wasn't doing anything, I wasn't doing shit.
Yeah. It's like, what happens to a dream deferred, right? Well, I don't gotta defer that no more. I got one. Yeah, that's cool. What about for you guys? Like, what do you see? Like, keeping going? Like, where does this take you? Where does the recovery take you? One of the questions in the Just for Today reading yesterday was, have you reclaimed your life? Right? Do you see yourself having reclaimed your life? Like Mulligan, like reset, and now I'm on track. Like, have you done that, or was it still a process? Like, what does that look like?
I feel like I've reclaimed a big portion of my life. I've got my credit back, I've got my relationships back, my family back.
You got your rights back.
And my rights back, I did.
Yeah.
And I was supposed to be on probation indefinitely, you know, so that's always out there for people to right now, but yeah, and I'm just taking every day as it goes. I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up.
No doubt. Yeah, but you're willing to admit that, Kat, and you're willing to seek that out.
So
Like in our circle, it's okay.
I know what I'm not going to be.
There you go.
So.
I at least start there. No doubt. No doubt. What about you, Jacob? Like reclaiming and what now? Like recovery-wise, what does that mean?
I think I definitely reclaimed, like sometimes when I think back about it, it almost feels like it wasn't even me. Like I'm just like like when I think about those memories, it's like it wasn't even me. It's so hard to explain, but it's like a different person. Like I'm literally like a different person now. Yeah. And like I like where my life is. I like communicating with my family. Yeah. I like being able to save money so I can, have my own place, have my own things. Yeah. I like not being in debt up to my eyeballs because I spent all my money on drugs. Like I definitely like where my life is now. Life.
Yeah, and sometimes for people trying to get clean, they can't see that, or they don't want to allow themselves to think that they can actually like this side of life. We talk about normies all the time. We talk about the boring sort of monotonous recovery, but there's more. You see so much more opportunity. You see things opening up, and them hearing it from you guys, I think is huge. Right? They see themselves in you, and they say, "Yo,
getting clean." Yeah, I didn't want to because of the boredom. What am I going to do?
Right. That's the big one, I think, for everybody. Yeah.
But once you realize, like, a whole new world opens up to you. It's amazing. It really is.
Sing the song for me. Are you singing?
No.
But the world does open up, right? Look, me and any of you guys wouldn't have crossed paths if it wasn't for your willingness to be in recovery. I wouldn't have asked. I wouldn't have known that you wanted to help and then say, yo, I got somebody, I got a lead for you. Right. You have to be willing to kind of take that risk. Just like you took the risk in using and continue, you got to be willing to take that risk and see that it's worth it.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. I'm going to do something that I wasn't planning, but I will allow for people to unmute and ask a question. This could be chaotic or this could be helpful. I don't know. But I recognize that some people may not want to type it in. Some people may just be listening. So I'll allow that, to open up. But I just, I want to give that opportunity for interaction because I think that that's critical in this, is being able to talk. And anybody here in the live audience too, if you got a question, I want that personal connection.
See what happens.
When are you?
Oh, we have one online.
Oh, we got one, go. Somebody said.
Go ahead, Brittany.
Oh, okay. Hey, I just wanted to go ahead. I don't really have a question. I just more wanted to thank y'all for your time and what I did get to listen in on as much as I could. Pay attention with my 5-year-old scooting in the back, but I do appreciate every one of y'all and speaking and giving, you know, your advice and your story and where you've come from, and you know, giving hope to where people could be going. So I think that's wonderful. Congratulations on your recovery.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brittany.
Very nice.
Yeah, and I think that's something that we, again, as we do this on the fly, I don't appreciate is that there's feedback. You guys are still in the journey. You're still in the process. And so being able to receive from people that are listening in, right? It's not that you've mastered anything. It's not even that I've mastered anything. Right? But being able to receive it from people that are in, this is an interaction. This is a relationship that we're building. Yeah. Anybody
You know,
else?
one of the
Yeah.
most beautiful things about this is when you see somebody, I've been here a while, and you guys pretty much have too now, but when you see that person come in for the first time, I saw Nolan when he came in for the first time.
Yeah.
He is a completely different
Hell yeah.
dude.
Hell yeah.
It's just very, it's very nice to see the healthy growth of somebody
No
and
doubt.
how
No
recovery looks on people.
Hold on.
It's never looked bad on anybody, I can tell you that.
That's a really good quote. You talk about a quote, right? Recovery's never looked bad on anybody. Yeah, that's huge. I really like that. Yo, quote that, John. Anybody else online got a question or statement?
Can we ask you a question?
You could, of course,
Do
ask
you,
me.
do you have the stats of like how many people that come in actually stay? I know there's people that leave that
Yeah.
are maintaining their sobriety and they've, you
Yeah.
know, continued with it, but is there
Mm.
a stat of
Yeah, and so that's a really
who
funny
makes
question.
it, who does, you
Right.
know what I mean, a ratio?
What I always answer to people is, number one, I'm horrible with those numbers part. I've never
Sure.
done that. I just kind of do the grind. What I do know from a provider standpoint is that whenever there is success, and this is not just substance related, but any sort of therapeutic sort, we never know because you're off to the races.
Right,
What it helps for us to know is that you're able to come back and give thanks, right? End relationships appropriately, or send us a letter, or note, postcard, or something. But we often don't hear from people, Pat. And sometimes what we have to tell ourselves is that if we haven't heard from you, we have to almost trick our brains to think, well, you're off and you're doing well, rather than thinking the reverse, which is horrible.
right.
But I wish I had a solid number. What happens is we
Maybe
get
there's
good
a
and we
way-
keep going. I
A
wish
way
it
to
was.
connect that.
Yeah, I think that part of it, maybe, and I'm thinking out loud, that the stigma or the appreciation for finding treatment and help, to shout that out in your own circles.
Yeah.
Whether it's social media, whether it's in the circles that you talk in or whatever, but it'd be like, yo, I'm good. And I need to let everybody know I'm good.
Maybe there should be like a like a reunion night or something, like, you know, like a
Yeah.
you know, like high school reunions. Have some of the people that made it come back, kind of thing, and celebrate them still doing well.
It's true. It's so funny too, Nolan. I know that we hear, all you guys will say, once we finish a certain part of our journey, a lot of people want to close that chapter and never go back, never look back. I will make it
That's
good.
option, though.
Right.
Yeah, I'll make it option. I think that there's nothing lost in being able to do that, no doubt. I'll fire up the grill and have everybody, if you got clean with Meridian,
I
Come
do
through.
too, I do too.
Come
I
through.
keep in touch with them.
yeah, but brag on your progress. I've said that in our circle. Brag on your success, brag on your progress. Yo, this is what helped me, and I need to just brag on that because I'm proud of where I am. Part of breaking the stigma is not just the image and the stigma of addicts and use, but the stigma of you shouldn't be proud of this accomplishment because you should have had it anyway. That's bullshit. Be proud of the accomplishments no matter what the accomplishments are. Celebrate the small wins. So in your circles and social media and whatever, do that. Yeah. Anything else online, anybody? I'm gonna give you guys 30 seconds, final thoughts, just to share with the community and with us, 30 seconds each.
Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. It was nice. Thanks for listening. Thank you for your time. I don't know if there's anyone listening who's got someone who's struggling right now and you're worried about them, or you know, just keep keep loving them, and if you've lost someone, I'm very, very sorry. And I hope that, you can tell your story too someday.
Thank you.
Mine would probably go out to the parents. If my parents never gave up on me, they did show tough love. They never provided an attorney for me, but they showed up to every visit and sent me money. I'm very grateful for that. Just, yes, don't give up, just keep at them. And, when it gets tough, you know, they're gonna do what they're gonna do, just always be there. That's
Yeah.
pretty much, you know.
Right, thank you.
I would say, don't be afraid to ask for help. I mean, it was very hard for me to take the point to ask for help, but once I did, I mean, my life has literally never been better.
Yeah.
I think if you can just muster up the courage and ask for help from anybody that'll listen, you'll see your life change in a different way.
I want to get on here just to say, truly from my heart, and these guys all know me as emotional as crap, but I consider you friends. And I'm so thankful for you in my life. I'm thankful for you willing to put yourself out there to expose a lot of parts of this journey that a lot of people wouldn't have the balls to do. And I'm so appreciative of that. Let me be one of the first from Meridian, from our standpoint, from people here, to say thank you. Thank you for putting in the hard work. Thank you for continuing to, thank you for not giving up, and thank you for trusting us and let us continue to do that. So I just want to say thank you to each one of you. Much respect. That does it for us in Real People, Real Talk, volume 1, maybe the only volume, I don't know, we'll see. If you have questions, if you need help, yeah, obviously, this is the shameless plug, Meridian there, reach out to me, however, reach out to one of these guys, right? Ask, but we can get you there. We've got help to try to get you clean and detox. We got help for long-term, for in intensive care.
Even mental health.
And even the mental health, that will guarantee to develop as we go, yeah. So we've got it, and we can find it, and we'll connect you. There's not a reason not to ask. Let this be one of the first steps in having a real conversation. I think this was a success because you spoke from your hearts, and we shared from your hearts, and that's it. It was unfiltered. So I thank everybody that joined us. Thank you, everybody in person, and special guests. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
We're gonna sign out. Peace.
You know what we need? If y'all took pictures of